This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number one. In a few sentences, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, Stacy. I work with sales teams and leaders who are looking for more confidence, purpose, and impact. I am Mark Steele, and I'm the founder of Invincible Success.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine that really helping people through this sales conversation over this last year in particular has been very effective and very needed, would you say?
It's been more important than ever for us to learn how to communicate effectively in a way that connects with the people that we're trying to reach.
Well, I'll be so excited to hear your ideas today. So I'm curious, what from your perspective is the best thing about leading people through change?
Change is a tremendous opportunity to improve, to look back at what we have been doing, what parts have been working well, and what ways can we try to implement something bold, something visionary in where we want to go. I think too often leaders and certainly employees, team members will think of change as a bad thing of, I like things just the way that they are, or I was used
Right.
to it this way. And we think of change as something that we dread or that we have to put upon people. And I think change can be seen or should be seen as just such a tremendous opportunity, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to challenge ourselves, and certainly to better serve our customers.
So interesting as you think about change. It's the one constant, right, that we can always count on, yet it's the one thing that people fear most is
Yeah,
kind of that
we
change.
fight against it. We want to stay comfortable, and yet there's certainly no growth happening when we stay in our sort of protected shelter of non-change.
So, what piece of advice then would you give to other leaders about implementing change?
For me, in my experience, the teams and leaders that I work with, I think one of the most important things is start where your employees or where your customers are at. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is start with empathy. Have a develop a very deep understanding of exactly what they're feeling, where they what they are doing well, what they're challenged with today. And then as you try to implement change, use their frame of reference in order to get where you want to go. So too often I know leaders that want to make changes and they just go in and say, here are what we're going to do. And from now on, we're going to do it this way. And certainly they meet a lot of resistance that way. And so it's better to start with empathy, start from where they're at, and then be able to lead them forward towards where you want them to go.
I love that idea of, creating an environment that they get excited to want to follow versus, an environment where you feel like you have to constantly push and prod and pull.
Yeah. I was recently having a conversation with my 20-year-old daughter, and the our her entire life, she's been trying to change me to be more understanding of her situation and her friends and things like that. And it wasn't until I really, or when I'm really listening to her, that I better understand why she would be asking me to do these things. And so I think any leader can apply that to their team members as well.
I love that. Again, I think how we are at home and being a good steward of communication in our home life is a really good conduit to some of the ways we behave when we go into the office too. That's great. So I hear from other leaders, especially over this last year, that keeping teams engaged remotely has been a challenge. That they don't have the benefit of doing the walk by or the overhearing somebody, on a phone call to be able to provide coaching and feedback. I'm curious, have you been experiencing some of that with your clients, and how have you gone about addressing that?
Without question, the clients that I work with are saying the same thing, that they find it extremely difficult to engage their team members or to connect with customers. And what I have done, what seems to work really well, is really being very intentional on taking steps to connect. Such things as making sure that just as you would when you were in the room with the person, that you start with asking them questions, even if it's a sales conversation. If you're there to ultimately do a presentation, always start with questions. Start with a better understanding of them, what their challenges are, how they're feeling that particular day. And then also make sure that you come back to them throughout, you interact with them. Too often, once we start talking, we don't stop. We just go and go and go. And we're not checking back in with the person that we're talking to. And so interaction is a very important piece of what I focus on with my clients, is making sure that we're finding ways to connect with the customers and team members, and be constantly checking in with them, even in the midst of a meeting, to make sure that you're always connecting.
So again, drawing back on that importance of really listening to the other person and engaging a dialogue versus a monologue of, yes, sure, you get your point across, but are you really engaging them on what their perspective is as well? And then are you listening to that?
Right. It's too
Love
often that
that.
it's so easy for people to tune out or get distracted. So if you're not continuously checking back in with them, chances are they're not going on the journey with you that you want them to go on.
Yeah, you're missing some stuff for sure. So as you think about that, then, question number 5, what daily practice is most important to you as a leader? What do you think's a non-negotiable?
Non-negotiable for me is reflection. I
Mm.
in my own personal practice, every single night before I go to bed, I actually have a journal right beside my bed that I take some notes of. Number one, a few things that I'm grateful for that particular day, but then also some things that perhaps I thought didn't go as well as I wanted them to, and to think about something that I might do tomorrow to try to correct that situation. And so I think that this sense of continuous learning, this continuous reflection, as you focus on growth, is essential to any leader's success.
That's awesome. I know, it's like if you're not growing, you're dying, right? There's no plateau. So how can I constantly get a little bit better? And I always like to think of it as a journey versus a destination. So it's something that I expect to do until I die.
And they're just teeny tiny little things you can do. It's not making large scale changes. It's just teeny tiny little improvements that you
Course
can make.
corrections, yeah.
Yeah.
So magic question number 6 for you. What other successful business leaders like yourself, Mark, should be on the show? Who else should we be paying attention to out there?
A couple folks that have had a big impact for me. A gentleman named Larry Kaufman recently connected with me on LinkedIn, and he's the sort of the epitome of a connector. He connected with me, specifically asking me how he could help me be successful. So
Wow.
he actually very quickly became a role model of something that I'm trying to put into my own networking, my own daily methodology of who can I connect with and how can I help them. So Larry Kaufman is a great example. And another great example is a woman named Catherine Johns. Catherine Johns has been in the speaking industry for quite some time. And she too, she's just like a steward of being able to listen, being able to respond, and tell a wonderful story on how you can better be more present and have more presence in your communications.
Well, if they're nearly as refined as you, Mark, then we know that's going to be some great information. So we'll definitely go find them and see if we can't get them on the show. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. I'm curious if somebody wanted to reach out and introduce themselves, how might they find you?
I'm at Steel Speaking on all of the socials. I'm most active on LinkedIn, So if you do just linkedin.com and then Steele Speaking, you will find me, and feel free to reach out and connect. My website is marksteele.com. Make it nice and easy. And I have some information there that you can hop on. You put your name in, and I'll keep you up to date on things that I'm doing and things that I'm sharing throughout in the upcoming months.
That's fantastic. Well, for those listening, there's two E's in Steel, and you guys know that I'll put his links down there in the description, so you guys can just click on that and find him right away. But this has been so awesome to have you here. Thank you so much. I sure hope you come back and visit us sometime soon.
Thank you, Stacey. I really appreciate you having me.
Of course. And this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.